I think this House had made a ruling that we can only wait for a minister, or they can fail to attend a House on 2 occasions only. When they're attending parliamentary committee or parliament, or when they're in cabinet. Mr. Speaker, could you clarify to this House which procedure would force the House to adjourn and re-adjourn to wait for a cabinet minister who was well versed that he should have appeared today at as from 9:30, looking at many issues, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that we don't build a tradition where in future, if a cabinet minister feels that they don't want to come at 10, they will come at 12, and imagine that the House will freeze or proceed with other House business so that they can come. I think the neater way should have, even if they are busy, the neater way should have been to reschedule to a later date. Instead, because now, Speaker, unless you are making a different ruling that in future, if I'm a witness before the parliament and I'm given a time to appear at 9 and I got get up or some of the reasons I just decide to defer at 3 p.m. and tell the House that I will arrive at 3. So, Mr. Speaker, can you clarify so that in future we don't open a window? You know, this is a house of rules and traditions, and then we don't want, when we summon or invite a witness before the House, they can go to court and challenge and say at one point a cabinet CS was supposed to appear, but because he was traveling, the House decided to defer the matter until an hour or 2 hours later. So we need to be very clear so that we don't open a very dangerous window that will abuse the parliamentary privilege and the position of parliament, because we have agreed there are only 2 situations that you can avoid sitting: cabinet meetings and appearing before parliament. Can you clarify so that we don't risk other issues that might crop up in future? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker, in addition to what my colleagues have said, I just wanted, Mr. Speaker, to say that it's important for cabinet secretaries to honor the summonses here. In particular, I was personally waiting for CS Murkomen because we have a national embarrassment at the airport where rain is falling. Rain is falling inside the international airport, Mr. Speaker, and it would have been an important position for him to clarify what is going on, because what the newspapers have reported, they are saying that he is talking about Jubilee administration. Mr. Speaker, how can we be talking about Jubilee administration 1 year down the road? We wanted the minister to come and clarify, and this is an important podium for him. Isn't that more important than traveling, Mr. Speaker, traveling to wherever? Mr. Speaker, I think you should be very firm about these ministers. We want them to honor the time that is in this House, Mr. Speaker, especially when important things that are embarrassing the nation. Mr. Speaker, imagine I'm being called by, a relative, my brother who is living outside, to tell me what is happening in Kenya. You can't even fix your airports. What's happening? Mr. Speaker, it's a national embarrassment, and the minister should have been here to clarify what he's going to do about it. I thank you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei. Thank you, Senator Mungatana. In fact, the more reason as to why the Honorable CS, I believe, was accommodated to come at around 11 is because of what you've just raised. As to the decision that this House took previously, that is the decision. It can only be at a point where the SBC has agreed to adjourn or to defer question. Otherwise, all cabinet secretaries who are required to respond to questions are supposed to appear, unless otherwise it has been accepted by the SBC. In this case, we only had received this communication from the CS for Treasury as to his official engagement outside. These are the assignment on other ministers who are meant to appear, including the CS for Roads, was to appear at 11 because SBC indeed said he must appear. But for what Honorable Mungatana has raised, he was engaged in that particular assignment, so that is the reason of his delay. There isn't any other reason as to why that has been accepted by the chair. Yes, Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, sorry if I'm seen to be slowing the House, but I find it difficult to understand. Probably the clerks can guide us. Under what standing order do we wait for a minister? Mr. Speaker, we've been around for a while. We've never seen a situation whereby business of the House is being stood down so as to wait for a minister. And even if we are going to do it, Mr. Speaker, could you tell us, are we suspending the House?
Senator Boni, I had already indicated that we are calling the next order to deal with the motion for purposes of making sure that the business of the House is not suspended. Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat what my colleagues have said. With all tremendous respect, I know you have power to rearrange the order papers per the standing orders. But, you know, how do we look before Kenyans if we can wait for a cabinet secretary? You know, it is not, Mr. Speaker, can you rule that the CS should appear in next possible sitting so that we can proceed with other matters, Mr. Speaker? Because it's unmatched. I am not aware. You are talking about the issue of leaking roof in JKIA, the issue of roads that have been swept away by floods. You know, these are issues that we needed the Cabinet Secretary Murkomen to come and clarify on where the ministry is putting interventions of floodings in the country. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are arguing is just for neatness of the House. Since now you have rearranged the order paper, which you have powers to as per the standing order, can you direct that? Because if Senate becomes the first parliament, in fact, parliament does not even wait for a president. If we wait for a cabinet minister by the name Murkomen, it will be a national embarrassment plus what is happening in JKIA of leaking terminal roofs, Mr. Speaker. So what I request with out of respect, and I know you are a gentleman, you are a good man, allow the House to proceed, advise the SBC because you are a learned senior counsel, advise the ISPC that out of the neatness and respect and tradition of this House, let the minister be allowed to appear at a later date. It will be neater. Then we proceed with other matters. There is extension of ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker. Ad hoc committee by Senator Chute. There is the issue of debate of presidential State of the Nation address honor to be addressed, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to repeat what I have said. There are only two instances that you can fail to appear before Parliament. When you are only attending a cabinet meeting, Mr. Speaker. We shall not allow the CS Murkomen to take this House for granted. He was here. He knows the value of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have received so many complaints. Even Chute will tell you in Marsabit, Mogadishu roads in northern Kenya, the roads have been swept away, Mr. Speaker, by floods. So, Mr. Speaker, can you rule that we allow the CS to go and see those roads and leaking in roofs in JKIA, then we give him a later day next week, then we proceed with the matters of the House. Considering, Mr. Speaker, our agenda is heavy. Mr. Speaker, please properly guide the House for the benefit of all of us, Mr. Speaker, and so that at least some of us can move with other issues.